This is in no means the only way to do things, but this is what we've seen in our past 3 years, coming up on our fourth year here, what has worked so far. So, first point, you do not need a giant marketing budget to get people in the door. As a nonprofit, that should speak volumes anyway. But you do not need a giant marketing budget. You just need to know how to leverage the free tools that are available to you and put a little bit of money behind advertising efforts in the right space. Second point, giveaways on social media work. This is one of my favorite points because we had previously used an agency who had said, like, don't do giveaways. It just kind of gives away the wrong message. But we've been doing giveaways and they work. It's a way to get free followers, it's a way to spread your message, and it's a way to reward people for following your content. Third point, focus on building an experience around your event. So our big thing since we started was we don't want to just be, even though we are an event one day a year, we don't want to just be that. We want to be an experience. So when you follow us on social media, we share different things like, for example, February was Black History Month. So we shared Black women who have been making strides in different industries, different venues for years. So really build an experience around your event. Don't just be a one-day event and always promote that. Promote things that are important to your event. So for us, it's continuously sharing the messages of women who have come before our current speakers or even our current speakers about what they're doing and the impact that they're making. The fourth point, and this one is really, really important and very understated, leverage your speakers and sponsors to help you socialize your event. So for example, for us, our first year, we didn't do this. We had 12 incredible speakers, and we missed a huge marketing opportunity by not asking them to share our event on their pages. Most of the time, their following is probably going to be bigger than yours, especially as you're starting out, and that's perfectly okay. But leverage them. So in your contracts with them, just make sure that you include a bullet point or have a transparent conversation with them about leveraging their audience. Even if it's just 1 to 2 posts, or if they, link your registration page in their stories, or if they send it out, to their email base, whatever it is, just make sure you're leveraging your speakers and your sponsors to help you get registrants. It not only builds their credibility and their brand, but it also builds your event. And then the fifth point, and one of my personal favorites, is don't underestimate the power of email. So we have been running a monthly newsletter, so feel free to subscribe at empoweringgirlsforlife.com. But what we did was after our first event, we segmented out our email list. So we said, okay, we had speakers who were from athletics. We had speakers who were from STEM. We had artists. We had entertainers. We had mental health professionals. We had lawyers. So we asked our registrants to tell us what sections they were most interested in. By segmenting out that list, we were able to then create some targeted email messaging to those people about the future speakers that were coming that they would be interested in. So never underestimate the power of an email and a strong subject line.
Hey, Lexi, can you pause there for just 1 second and go back
Of
to
course.
bullet point number 4 in leveraging your speakers and sponsors to socialize your event? Have you incentivized your speakers in any way with affiliate links, pay to play, that sort of
Mhm.
thing, or it's just naturally a, you know, um, hey, we need your help and
Yeah.
obviously socialize this?
Yeah, so we actually pay all of our speakers for empowering girls. So what we ask them within their contract, and it's typically when you're going through an agency to find a speaker, typically your contract, part of those fees go to the agency that's hiring you. Now, when you're a nonprofit event, that's different. So typically their fee is lessened, and we are allowed to propose things that we want in their contract. So because we pay them, we say that as a part of being paid for this event, we ask you to leverage your following to help us build up our event and to build your following as well. Now for the sponsor piece, Dennis, to your point, we just ask them. So we actually write up an email for them. We create social posts that they can share, and me and Bill will send it out and say, hey, we would really love for you to share this with your company, or if you have like a women's group, or if, for example, this year, one of our sponsors, they have a speaker that's going to be presenting at Empowering Girls. So we're asking her to send out a message to their company with an email that just says, hey, register for Empowering Girls, come here, Cheryl speak. So she's from ComEd, so she's going to send out that message for us.
Sure. Josh actually asked that question, and great minds think alike, Josh, because that was going to be my next question as well. Of, one of the things that we learned at DOYO, we tapped into that early on, but one of the things that we didn't do early on was kind of give a packet of information, and literally we wrote out tweets and social media
Yep.
posts and said, like, if you want to copy and paste this, hint hint, or if you want to put this into your newsletter, and you just try to help to incentivize it, the or force the issue. The one thing that we never really had any success with is that it's an influencer strategy
Oh, Dennis, I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Influencer. Um, but so the speakers have always been pretty successful, but the blind
Hey, Dennis, I think your Wi-Fi is going.
influencer play has never really been like they don't. I'll go back on mute. There is a poll open. I'm leaving it up. Go ahead, Lexi. Go ahead and just.
Okay. All right. So building your audience. So this is really important. And this was something that we made sure was a focus of ours as we were building Empowering Girls. So first bullet point there, successful events know who their audience is. They know how to communicate them, and they know what piques their interest. So we used, in our first year, full transparency, was a lot of trial and error here. Because we are empowering girls, there is only a certain number of ways that you can reach young girls. So we realized that we needed to leverage parents or guardians or influencers in their life as well. So our audience is kind of two-pronged in that approach, because we are definitely not going to be emailing young girls. We are going to be reaching out to their parents and hoping that they get them involved in this. So we use tools like Facebook and Instagram Insights to see our demographics. So for example, our Facebook is 73% women who follow it. So we tailor our message to that. And that's perfectly okay. We would love for men to be more a part of it, and I'm sure they will as we grow. But for now, we need to leverage that larger demographic. We use things like Twitter analytics. Our Twitter following has grown, especially recently, as we've been sharing a little bit more targeted content around International Women's Day, Women's History Month, Black History Month. So we're really trying to leverage those awareness months to get our word out. Google Analytics as well to see the breakdown of our audience on our website. And that's been a good tool for us, but honestly, we could do more there. So I think that's something where, data analytics, it's not a super quick process. So getting into your analytics when you're running a small event and you're wearing 10 hats and there goes my dog, can be really difficult. So just making sure that you set aside some time to analyze your data. Maybe it's after the event in those few weeks leading, or, a few weeks post event. Just make sure that you're looking at your data and really making decisions for the next year based off of that. Okay, so where is your audience? So this was something for us, again, a lot of trial and error after our first year. But for example here, so these are all, these examples here are examples that I've worked with. So are you a wedding dress expo and you're trying to get the word out about your next event? Leverage Pinterest, leverage Facebook events. Are you networking? Leverage LinkedIn, leverage email, set up like Dennis does with DOYO. They set up or before COVID, I should say, they set up a roundup of marketers and you could get together for coffee and just talk about best strategies. So leverage LinkedIn for that, send out invites. Is it an event for kids? Target Facebook. Parents are on Facebook. Our demographic on Facebook is between 35 and 54. That's the bulk of our audience. So we're using that for our event more so than the other platforms. Is it an event for young adults? TikTok is the new thing. Instagram stories, utilize local influencers. Think of creative ways to find your audience and then speak to them. Featured happy hour, of course, who doesn't want a picture with a tall drink in their hand? So Instagram, Facebook events, always a win there. And we found actually, so this report down here, and if Dennis is sending out the slides after, I hyperlinked it there for you, but Sprout Social does some really interesting demographic research on audiences on social media. So I highly recommend checking out that report. That helped us a lot just to kind of segment where we were speaking and tailor our message on those different sites. All right, so after we have our audience set up, we need to make sure that we're not just creating content for content's sake. And I'm sure Dennis will love that I'm saying that because I'm pretty sure that's a buzzword that he uses all the time. So, why does your content exist? Creating content for the purpose of why and who is super important. So, are you just sharing something because it's what everybody else is sharing, or are you sharing it because you want your followers to recognize your platform as somebody sharing valuable information surrounding this specific day or this specific topic? So just creating relevant, interesting content for your audience. And then asking yourself the question, what does your audience care about? So that's what we've been answering. And it's kind of an ever evolving question because your audience is also ever evolving. So it just takes, meaningful content to engage with your audience and keep them coming back for more. So I always try to keep in mind, I actually have a sticky note written on my Empowering Girls for Life folder, which is serve why worthy content. So why does Empowering Girls exist? Let's create content to support that why. And then engaging your audience. So now that you've created this awesome content and you know that it's something that they like, how do we now get more people to engage with that content? So what we've done that's worked really well is we've taken short video snippets from previous years and we've posted those to social media, which is personally has worked for us. But there's also things like animated GIFs that work that are just interesting and not your standard, run-of-the-mill stock photo. So just beta testing out those different, short, like digestible pieces that you can share. Giveaways, so freebies are always a win. I noted on this in the first part of this presentation, but that like for entry style on social media. So, hey, tag a friend for a chance to win, a $50 Amazon gift card. You'll see those coming up on our Empowering Girls for Life pages here soon as we kick off our social media strategy. And then enticing graphics. So is your event, what's the why? Is it, why are you having this event? What is so cool about this event that makes me want to go to it? So creating those enticing graphics, and we have an awesome graphic designer. If you're interested, I didn't ask her permission to share her information, but just shoot me an email and I'll happily connect you guys. So these next couple slides are events and organizations that I personally follow because they share engaging content that I just love. So this top right one is Rachel Hollis. She is an author. She hosts these events called Rise, and they're just awesome. Like this audience, like everyone's hands are up, like the speaker's engaging. She's not just standing there, talking into a microphone, but she's like jumping around. She's wearing normal clothes. Like that just looks like an event that I want to be a part of. There's people with lanyards on, so it looks exclusive. And her content is a lot like this. So I highly recommend checking out her page for some insights and innovations on social. Bottom left here is Women Leaders. So they just recently had a conference that I got to attend for just an hour, but they give away this swag box. So they actually mail you a box of fun goodie bags that you would typically get when you're in person at a conference. So I thought this was really innovative and this graphic is awesome. It kind of makes me wonder like, what's in that box? I want to get in on that. This next slide here, so at the top, that's inbound. So they have tons of speaker sessions at their event. They typically also host an in-person conference, but because of COVID, they are all virtual. So I just love here, if you look, it may be a little small on your screen, but the titles of these different speaker sessions are so interesting to me. So that first one, Learning Collaboration, How to Work in Multi-Generational Teams. Like that just makes me want to learn what she's even talking about. Like I want to learn, what that means and be engaged in that session. The second one is mental wellness in the workplace optional. In my mind, no. So I want to, sit in on his perspective on that and see and just learn more. I think that title is super engaging. And then fostering a culture of innovation at Google. Google's a powerhouse, like we all know, so I'm always interested in any content or any chance to hear somebody from Google speak. The bottom left here, that kind of full advertisement there, so that's from Facebook events. It's a company called Vital Proteins, and they just always share out these really cool speaker snippets. It's usually wellness based, so their whole brand is really wellness focused. So I just love this, how to find your purpose with fitness. I always am looking for things like that. So if you're interested, they always have some really cool, engaging content out there. And then finally on the far right here, so I'm sure most people have heard of We Are Happy Place. They go to different cities and it's literally just a happy pop-up. The vibe is awesome. It looks exciting. Their social media is always these super cool pictures that make me want to buy a ticket. It's really limited, especially with COVID. I think they're just now starting to do pop-ups again. But just looking at different engaging places, like I showcase these groups because I love what they're doing and I think their message inspires me to do something more creative and more exciting on empowering girls. So always make sure you're leveraging the power of social media and, grabbing ideas or inspirations from other accounts. We already talked a little bit about this, but again, leverage your speakers and sponsors. So develop a mini marketing plan. That's what we did. We set up an email for them. We set up a social post. We gave them the link. We actually tracked the link so that we could see if we did get any registrations from our sponsors and speakers sharing out the message. But just make sure that you're leveraging them. I'm sure they want to help, especially if you're a nonprofit. People when they come to speak at our event or sponsors that are interested, they're always so intrigued by what we do. So just leverage them. I'm sure they want to help. And then again, just kind of reinforcing that point, ensure your contract includes social media promotion. Everyone's on social media, it's a big deal. So their platforms, again, are probably larger than yours, so leverage them. As a speaker, it's building their credibility. They're speaking at an event, and it's also building up your registration. So it's a win win. And then to my favorite part. So, my full-time career is in digital marketing. So I love any chance that I can get to put together a digital marketing strategy for empowering girls. And thankfully, our budget has increased year over year. So we are getting to do more and more to spread the word. But exploring those options for casting a wider net. So, what can you do surrounding your event that would reach the most people? Especially if your brand isn't really known. Like Empowering Girls isn't really known yet. So we generally our strategy is casting a wider net to get registrants in the door. So newspaper and PR advertising, we have a relationship with a PR firm in Chicago who connects us with local newspapers, their e-newsletters. So we always advertise on those, and that's always returned a lot of registrants. You got a poll question here. So, are you planning to host any virtual events in 2021? We definitely are. Give you a second to answer there. Yeah, and I see a lot of not sures too. So, Dennis, I'm sure you're intrigued by that because now that we've got these vaccine rollouts happening, it's been talked about that we may be back to almost normal by the summer. So, is the fall and winter a chance to finally start getting in person with people again? I know I would love to be in person, but we've already made the decision for this year to go virtual. So, that gives me a lot of hope for 2022 that we will be in person. All right, I'm gonna minimize that. So, um, onto that second point. So, utilizing programmatic or third-party advertising, we've actually done the latter. So, we've done some third-party advertising for empowering girls. Again, you keep your graphics nice, short, and simple, and just link out to your registration page. Make sure that your contact information is correct for people who have questions, but that has historically worked well for us. And then that third point, and my favorite one, which is what we have leveraged and it has worked. We have gotten over 1,000 attendees at Empowering Girls each year. And this last year, we actually had 1,500 registrants. So leveraging social media advertising. So Facebook has been our bread and butter, again, because that's where most of our audience lives. So that makes sense for us. But again, understanding your audience and understanding where they live is going to help make your social media strategy the most impactful that it can be. Okay, and then Onto our last point about digital. So, exploring some personalized options. So, like I had stated in the beginning, our email campaigns, we took the time to segment out our audience. It was painful, I will say. But now we have these audiences that we know what they're interested in. So, this group of 300 people was really interested in the athletes that we had there. This group of people was really interested in the youngest girl to ever complete the NASA passport program. So, we're tailoring our messages to them, asking them to share the event with people they know, asking them first and foremost to register for our event, and then also sharing with them some clips of Alyssa Carson speaking last year. So, hearing her talk about her experience and how she is the first woman to be slated to go to Mars in 2022, which just seems crazy. So, again, just targeting your segments, making sure that your messaging makes sense for them. It's not just always a blast of information to your whole audience. And then finally, again, I can't hit this point home enough. Leverage your speakers and your sponsors. Ask them to send an email inviting their coworkers, inviting their list of people. The worst thing that they can do is say no. But the best thing they can do is say yes. And then that's just another avenue for you to get the word out, to legitimize your event, and to legitimize your speakers and your sponsors. So finally, and I'm at 23 minutes, so I promised a short one here, but just a couple considerations to close us out. So these are really important to us and something that I keep in mind constantly is your event attendance, your social media following, your email list will not grow overnight. It takes consistency, it takes strategy, it takes time, and it takes trial and error. That has been the biggest thing for us is figuring out. Like we thought Instagram was going to be our number one social media site. We quickly realized that is just not where our target audience is, and that's okay. So we need to speak to our target audience, not where we think people are, but where they actually are. Second point, just track your progress and dig into your data. So again, this is time consuming. Maybe take, a day or two after the event to look into this, but who's engaging with your event? Who was there? Who's not engaging? How many people are you reaching on your social media channels? How many people are opening and engaging with your emails? And then what channels are giving you the most bang for your buck? So just keep all of that in mind as you go. And especially for you nonprofits out there, it's a grind. Dennis will love that I'm saying that because that's like his tagline, but it really is a grind. So, keep doing what you're doing. Your event will grow. In the beginning, we were like, are we even going to get 5 people in the door? But now we've grown to over 1,500 registrants and we keep growing and we keep having peaked interest. So, thanks for letting me talk your heads off today. Don't be a stranger. Our email is empoweringgirlsforlife@gmail.com. Shoot me an email there. I monitor it constantly. I'm happy to jump on a call with anybody who's got any questions, or Dennis, if anybody has questions at the end here, I can hang around for a couple minutes.
Unmuting. Hopefully you can hear. That's a great job. Thank you, Lexi, very much. I appreciate you taking the time today. And yeah, a lot of things that we share. I mean, it is, an event is not for the faint of heart. But obviously, if you approach it pragmatically and methodically with your efforts and stay consistent, you can achieve a ton. I've got my third question of the day, and that is, are you ready to attend an event in 2021? And so as that's out there, the one question that I have is, you obviously have committed to a paid social media marketing strategy. Have you seen, you've been around long enough with this event from day one to now, and I'm guessing that your content's only gotten better as you've learned to understand your audience better as well. Have you seen a decline in your organic social media just because of changes to the platforms?
I haven't noticed it too much, but our social media strategy truly kicks off in April this year. So I think I'll for sure be monitoring it then, just based on, like you said, a lot of the changes we're seeing in the industry right now. But I will
Yep.
say, as far as organic social goes, when we post out something that's like, register for EGFL 2021, that gets far, far less engagement than when we're promoting things like, hey, did you see what Katie Caldwell just did in the news? She was our MC last year and she is a spokesperson for NHL. So we get far better engagement when we're highlighting specific things that people are doing versus just a generic, hey, come to our event or, share this post. So I'll say we've really leveraged that and leveraging the interesting things that our speakers do. So like, for example, Victoria Arlen, she was in a coma for 11 years. As soon as we say anything about that and then talk about where she is today and how she's grown from that crazy experience, we get far better engagement on those things.
Wow. No, that's interesting. I have one more question that I actually have to ask and dropped, and I have to go back and listen to the recording. Josh has a question as well about email platform. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Unfortunately, Lexi, I have got to run. You've run so many of my webinars that you'll know what to do in wrapping this thing up. So you could just hit end. My question to you is: are we at the point with so many businesses over the past year? Yesterday or 2 days ago marks the anniversary of the stay-at-home order. You and I were involved in a business where we took them from in person to online and launched some very cool things with telemedicine.
Mhm.
Are we at the point where we've got virtual fatigue, or is it just a because so many people obviously went to the webinar and the podcasting and into the event
Mhm.
space, and then obviously hit Josh's question. I got to run. Thank you for doing this for us today, and I'll catch up with you soon. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I would say just really quickly before we go that there is most definitely fatigue out there. And I think we can all relate our personal experiences to that, which are wow, everybody's doing a webinar. Everyone is asking me to sit in on their podcast, and everyone is blowing up my email. I haven't kept track of my email, but I am sure that we have all been hit with way more email than we have in years past. So I think virtual fatigue is definitely real. But I think as long as your message is unique, it's different, it's enticing, and you recognize that. So don't be sending 5 emails a week to people. It's probably going to get lost. Only send meaningful, engaging content to your audience, and you won't lose a valuable following just because people are maybe tired of this virtual environment. But with that, I'll close out. Thank you guys so much for letting me talk to you today. Empowering girls is truly my passion. So if you're interested at all in our event or just want to chat or catch up, grab a coffee, email us at empoweringgirlsforlife@gmail.com and I will get back to you. But with that, have a great day. It's super rainy and dreary here today in Ohio. So hopefully the weather gets better this weekend. But thank you guys and talk to you soon.